Thank you so much for coming tonight, for joining us for the Candidates Conversation. My name is Angela Ryan. I'm the Executive Director of the Petaluma Museum. And we're co-hosting this event tonight with the Petaluma Women's Club. So I want to thank co-presidents Catherine Wells and Barbara Crandell of the Petaluma Women's Club for allowing us the use of this beautiful space, which just so happened to be designed by Brainerd Jones, the same architect who designed the building in which the museum resides, along with many other buildings throughout town. Special connection. The Women's Club space is available for rentals for your next event, and you can find information about that on the table in the lobby. So if Connie Williams from the Petaluma Regional Library, she wanted to talk a little bit about her materials that relate to what we're talking about tonight.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you. I'm only going to take less than 1 minute to say thank you for coming tonight. Paula Freund and I talked about this evening starting in the library because we had started with an exhibit that we had on hand about the progressive movement. And in talking and looking at the progressive movement, which was the movement towards industrialization at the turn of last century, how important it was to make that bridge over to where we are now at the beginning of this century, moving from industrial age to the information age, and women as movers and shakers is a big, big part of both of those big eras. So welcome, thank you, and the Public Library, the History Room is open 3 days a week for you to come on up Fridays, Saturdays, and Mondays, and come by and visit us and see the artifacts we also have.
So this event tonight is the first in a series of events that the museum will be producing throughout the course of our current exhibit, which is the Petaluma Historical Library and Museum, A Story of Civic Progress and Pride. The exhibit's curator is Paula Freund. Yay! Who I would like to thank for her tireless efforts in support of the museum and our mission to preserve the history of Petaluma and to provide educational and cultural services to the community, such as this one tonight. The full program of events can be found on the flyer at the museum's table in the lobby. I just want to thank our sponsors. The exhibit and all of the events were made possible by those sponsors, including Quattrachi Quack Architects, Architectural Design and Restoration Group, Aftertech Advanced Imaging, and Corbell Winery. Paula's beautiful exhibit, which is on display now through December 23rd, tells the story of cooperation and coordination between City Hall and the citizens of Petaluma, particularly the pioneering and persistent group of women who led the charge to create Petaluma's Carnegie Library, thereby giving all of the people of this town access to knowledge and an education. Because of that rich and important history, we couldn't be happier to welcome these women on the stage tonight. In particular, we are thrilled to have our very special conversation moderator tonight, who made it not just her duty, but her passion to fight for education and social justice. And after her decades of service to this area, she needs no introduction, but it is my honor to hand the podium over to the Honorable Lynn Wolfe.
Thank you, everybody. Can you hear me? I'm talking through my chest. And I want to thank Paula Freund for tonight and all that she has done. I want to thank Catherine, thank you, and Barbara, thank you, and Angela for introducing me and keeping it short. Thank you very much. Hello, women.
Hello.
Boy, are you brave. Not to be here with me, but just brave for being who you are. So I'm going to go down the row and introduce each of the women right now, and then I'm going to ask 3 questions, and they'll all answer the first one, and then they'll all answer the second one, because what we want to do is get to know you. We know politics enough. We want to know you. So that's what we're looking for tonight. Somebody said any trick questions, and I said, well, what am I supposed? Should I ask? How much does a half a gallon of milk cost? And guess what? I don't know. That wouldn't be good. Then, you know, because women are supposed to know. No. Who are you as a person? And we'll start, okay, I don't have this in order, so I'm going to look at this. Joanna Pond is sitting right here, and she is the Director of the University and Academic Guidance 11th and 12th grade advisor, and she is running for the Petaluma School Board of Education. Then we have next Mary Cloud. Maddie Cloud, okay, I'm going to be stupid, I guess. Maddie Cloud. Maddie is a retired teacher, and she's running for School Board of Education trustee in Petaluma. Then we have Caitlin Quinn. She's here somewhere. Caitlin is a nonprofit communications coordinator, and she is running for Petaluma Joint Union High School District Board of Education and Trustees. So, and at the end we have two more. So I'll go to the other end because we'll keep all the school board people together. We have, at the very end, we have Phoebe Ellis. And Phoebe is the, I believe you're the chair right now of this.
Clerk.
Oh, that'll be you. You have been. Okay, Phoebe is on the board and rerunning for the school board of Petaluma. And then we have
Sherry.
Yeah, Sherry, okay, so she's going to judge me and grade me on whether I can say her last name.
Because no one's ever
Sherry
mispronounced your last name.
Pulaski. And so Sherry is president of the Board of Education at Petaluma Schools, and she is running again for the School Board of Education trustees. So then we have Maggie Fishman coming back next to her. Maggie is our representative in Petaluma on the trustee Santa Rosa Junior College Board of Trustees. I was going to get political, and I can't. I'm not supposed to. So then we have, we have Delinda Fisher. She's a nonprofit consultant, and she is running for city council. Thank you. Then finally, we have Teresa Barrett. Teresa Barrett is on the Petaluma City Council, and she is running for mayor. So thank you, women, for being here. Let's clap for them. So, no quick trick questions, promise. And we're going to start at this end for this question. Okay, we're going to start with you, Joanna. Okay, who are you, and why are you brave enough to run for elected office? And we will give no more than 2 minutes, but we don't have any time. Do you want to stand up where they talk?
Yeah, would you, because people in the back can't see. Yeah, so that, I appreciate it.
Okay.
On time.
All right. 2 minutes. You don't have to take the whole 2 minutes.
So I'm Joanna Pond, and I am a mother. I have 4 daughters. The oldest 2 are 13, they're twins. And I have an 11-year-old and a 6-year-old. I really hope I got all their ages right. I don't always get their names right, but those are their ages. And 2 of them are in Petaluma City Schools right now, and then 2 of them will be in the future. And so, just as a parent, and just seeing some things that had gone on in the district when I worked for the district, there's just some things I would like to address. And instead of just advocating for my own kids or for the kids at the school where I previously worked, which was Kenilworth, I would like to advocate for all the students in the district. So.
Okay, well, what makes you brave enough to do that? Where did you get that
So
spot?
that is kind of a trick question. What makes me brave enough? I think about my mom, who was a single, well, she still is a single mother, and she raised myself and my 2 brothers. I don't remember a time when my parents were ever married. So I was 2, my other 2 brothers were 3 and 5 when my dad left my mom, and for her, like, education was the most important thing. She actually integrated schools in Chicago, and so she always stressed the importance of education to us. So
That
just think
gave
about
you
her.
a good backbone. Thank you, Joanna. Maddie?
Well, 2 minutes and I'm almost 70, so it's gonna be hard. Okay, I'm Maddie Cloud. I've lived here 31 years. I have 2 charming daughters who I raised here. One lives here, Kate just moved back here from Washington, D.C., and my other daughter lives in St. Louis, very far away. I have always been really involved in Petaluma. I love Petaluma. I came from San Francisco where it was very impersonal. You know, you didn't really know the school board members or the city council or the mayor. And then we moved here, and all of a sudden, people that I met were in these positions, and I thought that was really, really an awesome thing. I love the community aspect of this whole town, and I still do. I became a teacher late in life. I've done many, many things in my life, mostly low paying. And at one point I was a pastry chef in San Francisco. When we moved up here, I had 2 kids, and you can't be a chef and work and have kids and be a woman. And so then I stayed home with my children. I did a variety of things, went back to school, and then eventually became a teacher when I was 56. And I taught for 10 years in English. I also did teach a baking class, which was crazy. And then, I don't know, I think I just have a lot of energy. I retired 3 years ago. And I felt that 10 years was not, I wish that I could have done it longer. And so I feel like with my experience, with my attachment to the town, I really wanted to give back in some way, and I think I'm strongest in education. I've been a perennial student, and whenever I've needed to do anything in my life, I go back to school. So,
Thank you. Caitlin?
See if I can get this. Okay.
That should,
Okay. Yeah, there we
it
go.
is.
No, I just wanted to make sure I could reach. Hey everyone, my name is Caitlin, and I am a 25-year-old nonprofit communications coordinator at Verity, the rape crisis center that serves Sonoma County, and I also work a lot with our survivors of sexual violence. So right now is a really interesting time to be a young woman. It's weird for me to realize how severe the rest of the world is taking these things, because this has been my life since 2013 when I started working on Title IX reform at UC Berkeley, where I was a student. So for me, I've always been a fighter for students and a fighter to keep public education high quality and accessible. And I think that our city schools are really high quality public education. I want to make sure that more families understand that and choose to send their kids to Petaluma City Schools. So a big thing that got a fire under my butt was I'm a very impatient person. My partner and my parents and all of my friends will tell you that. And so I couldn't wait for someone else to solve the problems that I saw. We see all sorts of people at the national level who are making all sorts of decisions I don't agree with, so I wanted to stand up and do something about it.
Thank you, Caitlin. Teresa Barrett? Oh, I didn't have to do that. Teresa Barrett.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I'm Teresa Barrett, and I am running for mayor after being on the city council for 12 years. And before being on the city council, I was on the planning commission for 6 years. And before that, I was on the tree committee. That was my gateway drug. No, it was true. My children got to the age where they didn't need me around all the time. And unlike many of the women sitting up here today who love working in education, I did not miss my vocation. It just is not how I can spend energy, but I do care a lot about my community, and I really felt that because I had a lot of care and concerns and opinions, that I might as well give a voice to my concerns. And so step by step, I got more and more involved, and I actually just loved the Planning Commission. That is just wonky enough that it really attracted. It was attractive to me because of the kinds of things that I like to do, which is research, pretty much. So after I timed out on the Planning Commission, I decided to run for City Council, and it just seemed like the natural next step. So since I've been on the City Council, I've only been in the majority 2 out of the 12 years, and I've been really disappointed in the fact that when I started on planning, we had just adopted the Central Petaluma Specific Plan, the SMART Code. We were like the first city in the country to have that. And I was also really excited about our river access plan that we had adopted, and our bike and pedestrian plan, and all these different aspects of planning and development and how a city should grow. And then when I was on the council, it just wasn't happening. You know, the city was not really following those plans. So I have been working for the 12 years that I've been there to move the city back in that direction, and hopefully we can make a change in November that can help us do that with the new majority. So what gives me the bravery to do that? I'm the 6th of 6 kids, 5th of 5 girls, and you know, you just either had to do it because no one was going to do it for you, and you know, there wasn't a lot of oversight. So, so you were pretty much on your own, and you just had to make your road, and that's what I did. And so it's not so much bravery as just plowing through.
Strength, yes. That's Delinda Fisher.
Good evening. Thank you all for being here. My name is Delinda, and I was raised in Anchorage, Alaska. I've had 3 careers. The first was in Los Angeles, where I was an urban planner. I have a master's in urban planning from University of Southern California. And my second career was I was a retailer. I owned and operated a small retail store in Los Angeles. And 5 years ago, I decided to move here. I'd always wanted to live in Northern California, and I finally had nothing in LA and was able to move here. And when I arrived, and I chose to live here because of the beauty of this city. I didn't know anybody, I didn't have a job. I just arrived and said, oh, this is the place that I want to be. This is the place that I want to live. And it was the best decision that I ever made. I started working for Daily Acts when I got here, started volunteering, and eventually became an employee of Daily Acts, and now a nonprofit consultant for a national organization who's trying to increase quality in the food supply. So that's a little bit about who I am. And the backbone. So over this past year, well, ever since Trump got elected, I've been thinking a lot, and I come from a very political family, so this comes a little bit naturally. It's kind of in my DNA. My grandmother was in the first state legislature in the state of Alaska after fighting for statehood. And my mother ran for school board. So I was raised with politics, you know, going door to door and holding signs when I was a child. And I really came to realize that I needed to do something. I can't do anything about what's going on nationally, but I can do something about what I see in this city. And I can, because I have the skills and the confidence and in the profession and the knowledge, that I can contribute to this city, and I really want to serve. It's something I very much enjoy doing. I love volunteering, and this is an opportunity to do that.
Thank you, Delinda. Maggie Fisher.
Well, hi. It's the teacher in me that wants to be here, not there. Well, I'm a Scorpio, but I guess that's not what you want to know about me. But, well, I think that all roads led to me running for the Junior College Board of Trustees, starting in 1969 when I set foot as a student on the campus as a student. And what it did for me, and how life-changing it was, and opportunities gave me, and quite frankly what the community college system does in terms of the whole democracy and access to public education. when people don't have an opportunity, and I quite frankly did not have the grades to go to a four-year school. But my opportunity for me was at community college, and it was transformative for me. So I think starting in 1969 when I moved to Sonoma County from the East Bay, that's how I wound up, you know, in 2014 running for office. And in between that time, I have taught high school at Montgomery High School for 20 years, starting at age 40. I'm retired from that. I worked in the California legislature for a number of years, lived in Sacramento for 9 years, worked for USC School of Public Administration in Sacramento, ran a number of political campaigns in my youth in Sonoma County. So I think all of those experiences led me to run for office. And I don't know if it was bravery. I know that it's scary. That running for political office and putting yourself out there takes a lot of nerve, and I respect absolutely anyone who does it. And all of these women who put themselves out there, and out there is a phenomenal, wonderful thing that's going on. So I don't know if it's bravery or I don't know. I just set my mind on something and decided this was what I was going to do, and I had my resolution of philosophically what the community colleges mean and why I wanted to be a part of it.
I should have sat on the other side of Maggie. She's a tough act to follow. So my name is Sherry Klodowski. I'm finishing my second term on the school board. I'm the president of the school board right now. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to sponsors for having this. I'm a member of the Women's Club, so I'm super excited to see an event being held here other than just our event, so thank you for being here. I started my career as a police officer. So I was a woman in a very male-dominated field. I was #1 in the police academy. I think we had 6 women and 70 of us in the academy class that I was in. So I think my bravery, after that, I think I was pretty brave getting through that. I think I might have been crazy going into that, but I grew some bravery. After the police academy, I found my husband at the police department that I worked for, and got married. And when we had our first child, he had more seniority and it made more sense for me to quit my job and stay home. When I stayed home with my child, it was quite a different career from being in that male-dominated, kind of controlling, peacekeeping, you know, high anxiety, stressful job, and so I needed something else. And I joined the Petaluma Mothers Club, which saved my life. Found all of my female friends that I still have today. Many of them came from the Petaluma Mothers Club and participating there. I think that's what started my activism in town and getting myself involved. I did a lot of community service with them and grew relationships and continued forward. And I met Teresa somewhere along the way, became a very good friend, and I believe she was one of the original people that encouraged me to go for an appointment for the school board, which I did not get. I did not get chosen, and my family will remind you all of that often, that they chose him over me. It's okay, we're very good friends now. So after that, I decided to run against him and try to oust him. Didn't quite do it, but that's how I got involved. So bravery, I think I just really enjoyed being involved in community. I have 3 children. They are 14, 13, and 10. They've all been in Petaluma City Schools since they were in kindergarten. I have 1 in each district now. Petaluma City Schools is two districts governed by 1 board. So we have an elementary school district and we have a secondary district. And I have a child in middle school, a child in high school, and a child in elementary. So I'm pretty connected to all of it right now. And I really enjoyed it. It's a lot of hard work. It's a very hard job to educate students and have lots of fulfilling programs on a shoestring government budget. But I enjoy it and I'm hoping to stay. So I think that's it.
Thank you. Phoebe Ellis. My name is Phoebe Ellis, and I was born and raised here in Petaluma. My sister Nicole in the back. Shout out to Nicole. And thank you all for hosting this lovely event. It is nice to be here. I did attend Petaluma City Schools through kindergarten all the way through senior year at Petaluma High School. I went on to become a lawyer as well as a social worker, so I have a dual degree, which I feel makes me very qualified to be working with students and in the schools and with people and teachers and staff and administrators. I feel like I have a very good ability to relate to people and understand people and listen to people. I have 3 children of my own, who 2 of them are still at Petaluma City Schools. One is a freshman in college. So I've endured the system. I've been very involved with the system. I feel very fortunate that my children have been able to attend Petaluma City Schools, and as well as myself. I see many of my former teachers in town who continue to live here and be involved in our schools. So I feel like it's not about being brave, but it's about giving back to the community where I was raised and where I sort of developed my person, and my family's been very involved in this community. So I feel like I need to continue to give back and be a good community member, and I think that's one of our goals in Petaluma City Schools, is to really raise children in our system to be educated and to be engaged and to, you know, go get jobs, to go to the junior college, to go to a 4-year school, but ultimately to get involved in their communities and to give back. So I'm looking forward to serve. I was, sorry, a little bit about my history. I was appointed in 2013 and then elected in 2014. So I've been on the board for about 5 years, so I'm seeking a second term. And again, it's been a steep learning curve, but I feel like we're moving in the right direction. There's always room for improvement. We're always open to new ideas and programs. But Petaluma City Schools is a pretty strong place, and public education is important for our community, so we're going to continue to build on that. Thank you. Thank you, Phoebe. So my next question is also 2-part, and I'm going to start with Teresa and come this way, then we're going to go back to Linda and go that way, so we're not always going in the same direction. Here's my question, and the question is, this is a personnel man. I feel like we're hiring you, you know. So, and I was a personnel expert. So I'm going to ask a question I always ask our applicants who came to digital telephone systems. What one thing are you proudest of that you've accomplished? And what have you done that you failed and learned something from it? And you don't have to start right now, because I'm going to tell you that he left. We had Frank Chong here. Who was, oh, where are you, Frank? Oh, well, of course, you missed. You got out of your chair. Frank Chong is the president of Santa Rosa Junior College. Okay.
Great. So I hate these kind of questions.
Yeah.
So the first part of that is, what are you proudest of that you've done in our line of work?
No.
In life in general.
Okay. John, we want to know you. We're not doing an interview. We're not doing a political debate. So, but if what you're most proud of is part of your job, well then yes.
Okay, and then the second question
was one thing that you've done that failed, but you learned from.
Oh. Well, let us just open our heart here. I am such a private person, which is so interesting, because you don't often think of political people as being private. Pardon me? Oh, yeah, well, maybe I don't want people to hear it. So what did I actually went to a wedding shower when I was like about 18 or 19, and it was, one of those horrible events where it's mostly the mother of the bride's friends, and then like about 7 of the bride's friends, and then you're supposed to all be having a great time, and we were not having a great time. But there was a lady there who said she knew how to read fortunes. And so she read our fortunes. And she told me that my fortune was going to be that the best part of my life was going to be the last 20 years of my life. And so you never know in the last 20 years of your life. So, you have to calculate that appropriately. And it actually, once I realized that you don't know when your last 20 years are, that it's not just 80 to 100, but maybe it's 30 to 50, it really made me think about making sure that every day I'm doing what I want to do, and that what I'm doing is making a difference. And so I was someone, this is really a shaggy dog story, because I mean, I'm going to go back to say that I was very academic, and I was very involved in college and graduate school, and then went on to work in research, and was going back to get my MBA, and then I changed my whole life and got married and left everything, and came up to Petaluma and had 2 lovely little boys, something I never thought I was going to do. And then stayed home with those boys. And that actually turned out to be one of the most important things I've ever done, because I had that luxury to stay home, which I totally recognized as a luxury. And I just felt there was probably nothing I was going to do that was more important than making 2 really good young men. And today on the radio, and I think we were referring to it a little bit, we live in a weird time for young women, but we also live in a weird time for young men. And it was always very clear to me that it's really important to raise good men, because that really works for women too. So that was, I don't even know if that's an answer.
That's an answer.
That's important to me.
Yeah.
And then what did I fail at? Oh, well, not to be real personal, but my marriage failed, and that was pretty devastating. But I also learned a lot from it, and I have emerged stronger. So.
Yay.
So I'm going to start with my failure, otherwise I might chicken out. What felt like a failure for me was moving back to Petaluma after I graduated from college. I went to UC Berkeley, so all my friends were going off on Fulbrights and getting into Harvard Law and doing all sorts of amazing things, getting paid way more than any human should get paid at Google or Amazon. Go Bears. But I honestly felt like a failure when I moved back to Petaluma and moved in with my parents. It was hard. I spent through the first 3 months I was back here very, very depressed, and slowly climbed my way back up to who I had been. I worked at a doggy daycare for 9 months. If you ever have to work a minimum wage job, work at Play Dog Play with Molly and John. They're the best. Get paid to take care of people's dogs and cuddle with them. It's awesome. And it was the best thing for my mental health ever. Again, cuddling with 200 dogs every day. So I slowly realized that I wasn't a failure, that I didn't have to have my life all figured out at 22. Everyone had told me that. Like, I did not lack for people telling me that, but it's different to truly know that, I think, for yourself. So I clearly feel like it wasn't a failure, because now I'm up here asking people to vote for me, and I love Petaluma, I really do. It's not my fault, my parents have great taste. That's what I tell all my friends when they're like, why'd you move back to your hometown? I'm like, can you blame me? Come visit. And then what I'm proudest of was when I was a student at UC Berkeley, that's when I got really, really involved in politics, like a lot of us who go to Berkeley do. It's kind of what you do. But what I'm proudest of is in the 2012 election, I led a team that registered 8,500 new voters.
Oh, yeah.
So compared to that campaign, this campaign feels a little easier, because I know what I'm selling. I can explain it. But and this was right before they had rolled out electronic voter registration. So we were chasing down 18-year-olds and trying to convince them why it was important to register to vote, and trying to explain all of these different things in the 5 seconds it took to walk from the entrance of campus to their classroom. So that's what I'm proudest of, and I hope you are all registered at your new address if you have moved in the last 2 years.
So I think it's going to sound like not a big failure, but it actually changed the course of my life. I was, 23, 22, and I wanted to live in the country. I wanted to, live in Colorado and live this great life in the mountains, and found out that I hated being cold, and I was sick all the time, and nothing worked. I was a maid and making no money. I was on, relief, and I decided after just a few months that I failed. I couldn't do it. This was not going to be my life. And I moved home. And I didn't live there very long. I decided I would go back to school. I had decided not to do school. It was 1969 or something. And so I thought, oh, I'll just go back, sign back up. And I did, and I met my husband in one of my classes. And so we've been married 44 years as of Friday. And, you know, I mean, as all marriages, you know, but it's, you know, it really, in so many ways, saved my life because it gave me some kind of foundation. And I actually have two things that I'm proudest of.
Okay.
Well, three. I promise it'll be fast. Two of them are my children. They're absolutely the light of my life. They keep me going. They, as you know, I'm sure all of you share that feeling. They are what I'm most proudest of. But I'm also proud of the fact that I went back at the age of 56 and got a credential and started teaching English at high school. And everything about it was hard, really hard, and everything about it was wonderful. And it's something that I kind of miss every day because I guess I do like to be challenged. But in any case, that was my greatest challenge. I only lasted 10 years, so it kind of, that part of it overwhelmed me eventually. But I saw a student of mine yesterday, and it was so exciting. You know, it's just something that's a wonderful thing. So anyway, that was my greatest challenge.
Thank you. Joanna.
So I'll start with failure.
Oh, you got it.
Yeah, I want to get there. So I'll start with this.
All right.
So I am a school counselor, and so I was trying to get my brothers and my dad to reconcile, and I was like, I can do this. I mean, they always say like, don't practice on your family. I'm like, whatever, I'm gonna do it, and it failed miserably. So yeah, I was trying to reconcile my family. Didn't really work out.
So what did you learn from it?
Some people just can't be changed.
My little sister.
Yeah, it's more my dad. But anyway, so I'd say my biggest accomplishment was proudest accomplishment. So I went back to school when I had 3 kids, and I ended school with 4 kids. So, there's someone in the audience who helped me through that time, Stephanie. So I went to Sonoma State and got my master's in counseling, and it took me 6 years. And I think if I had known it was going to take 6 years, I would have never done it. Because I thought it'd be a good idea to get pregnant my 2nd year. So I was pregnant my whole 2nd year with my 4th daughter. And then took some time off and on, but I finished. And Stephanie, I was like, you are going to graduate if it kills us. And I was like, I know I am, I just don't know how long it's going to take. So that's what I'm most proudest of.
Thank you, Joanna. Belinda.
Oh, this is like barrel tonight, isn't it? So I mentioned my second career was as a retailer. I opened a women's athletic store in Los Angeles in 2006. Yeah.
Oh, no. What did you do?
I said I opened a women's athletic store, 3,000 square feet, $250,000 worth of merchandise in 2006. It's called bad timing. So, as you know, recession hit in 2008. I kept it going and going. I ended my relationship in 2008 at the same time, thinking, oh, I got this. This is a success. So this is actually a success and a failure story because we had, I don't know, 25,000 customers. We were teaching women to run. We were teaching women to swim. We were, you know, the top triathlon store in Los Angeles. You know, we were the place that women could go to buy sports bras. There wasn't any other place to go. So it was a great success in that regard, and it absolutely failed financially. We lost all of our customers in 2008. We were in just below, just south of Beverly Hills, and in Culver City. It was very fashionable not to have a shopping bag, and nobody was shopping. And then online came on at the same time. So I spent absolutely everything that I had, and it turns out it was a bit, to keep that store going because I loved the job and I really loved the people and I really loved what I was doing, but I had to let it go.
So what did you learn?
Humility.
You know, the longer you sit here, the more I think about all the things that, I could say. And I'm going to start with, it's not so much disappointments as it maybe is mistakes that I've made. And that is, you need more than one hand for that at this point in my life. More than one mistake, whether it's, not telling my children I love them enough, or not telling people in my life before they died that I love them enough. I think those are mistakes. The party I went to that I shouldn't have gone to, or maybe in my 20s when I drove a car when I should not have been driving a car. There's lots of mistakes out there. Not studying as hard as I could have studied at certain points in my life. Using a disability I have as an excuse and not as an avenue. That was a disappointment of mine, a mistake of mine. But I'm not sure how to answer that one. I'm going to be up all night. Thank you very much. With this one, But the thing I think I'm most proudest of is being able to sort of reinvent myself and zigzag through my mistakes. Because I did make, some mistakes. I wasn't the kid that the student that, was on the straight and narrow path and, everything sort of happened. Actually, I had a son that age he was born, he knew what he wanted to do. We didn't even know where it came from. He wound up in some congresswoman's office even. But, I was the zigzag person. And every time, there was a mistake made, I was on academic probation. At the junior college, the only A was volleyball, because I could serve overhand. And, it's when they changed the rules. But, and I went back to school and, I graduated from college in '74 and then went back and got a credential, walked out of a master's program that maybe I shouldn't have, but that's probably one of my biggest failings is I didn't finish that. But there have been lots, but somehow what I'm proudest of is sort of the zigzag thing I did and that I could survive those mistakes and remedy them and
Thank you.
persistence.
Thank you.
Oh. So, I have 3 kids, of course, and I'm proudest because I can't believe I made 3 people that amazing. But as far as my person, I'm going to start with my failure. One of my largest failures, I told you I became a police officer. I became a police officer because I had been in law school and I took the bar and I didn't pass. And that was devastating. My mother was very sick at the time and I had to choose between being in ICU with her or studying. Of course, I chose ICU with my mother, who's also a member here and fabulously healthy. Well, she's had hip replacement this week, but she's healthy. I digress. So I came to law enforcement because I didn't pass the bar. I didn't know what else I was going to do. That's a 3-day exam, or at the time it was grueling, and I had studied and gone to school for so long. I had taken a job. I had quit my union job to take a $10 an hour job that was a law clerking, because I wanted to get in the field, and so I felt like I had derailed my entire life. What I'm proud of is when I got married and I was pregnant with our first son, I realized that my maternity leave would coincide with the February bar, and I thought, I'm starting a family, it could be my last chance to ever pursue this. So I studied at home on my own. I didn't take a bar course that you go to every day. My mother came over every day and took the baby downstairs and brought the baby back to me when I was studying to nurse, and took the baby back downstairs for 4 weeks. And I passed, and I was super excited. And to dovetail onto that, I tried to practice a little bit, was pregnant very quickly again. My children are only a year apart, my first 2. And so I couldn't practice law. And just recently, a few months ago, with a 14-year-old, 13-year-old, 10-year-old, I decided to open my own law practice here in town, which working moms everywhere, holy mother God, I'm very proud of it, but it's amazing that women have ever done this at all. Knowing what it's like to be a stay-at-home mom, and that I could make the cupcakes, and I could make the brownies, and I could be on the field trip, and I could go on the overnight, and now I have to give that stuff up because I'm in the office, and I have to switch the role with my husband. It's quite interesting that we have this opportunity to do one or the other, and so many of us are trying to do both. It's a very interesting time in my life, but I'm proud that I've given it a shot. So,
Thank you, Sherry. Phoebe. I'm going last again. I didn't mean to go that way. Well, you see, no, I don't get any votes anymore. I don't have to be fair. So failure, I think I had studied very hard in high school, at Petaluma High School. I was very proud of that, and I was determined I was going to be a doctor. I started college as a biology major. And I got to college and decided to have a good time, and so I did fine, but my studies were not my priority my first couple of years, so I quickly realized I was probably not going to make it to medical school, as I just didn't kind of excel in the classes I needed to be excelling in. So that was very disappointing. I wanted to be in a position where I could help others. That was something that I'd always kind of been drawn to. So. After I graduated from college, I did the Jesuit volunteer program. I went and volunteered up in Seattle for a year and worked in a homeless shelter, and so I got interested in social work. So I kind of I changed paths and ultimately did get a dual degree, but it was something I had a big pill to swallow, and to be able to share with friends and family that I know I was no longer going to pursue medicine. But so that was definitely disappointing. And I think one of my biggest accomplishments, and I'm sort of in the middle of it now, is we have a long-standing family business in Petaluma, Lace House Linen, that's been in business 105 years. So my sister and I and her husband are fourth generation working in the business. So we're kind of working, continuing in our family business and growing it and expanding it, but it's a difficult time to run a business. So a lot of changes in the state of California, just different compliance and workers' comp and employees, and so budgets and money. And so our father still works in the business, so he's always, why do you have to do that? Why do we need new computers? Why do we have to update the machinery? So he doesn't quite get that we have to move ahead with the times. So it's interesting, it's fascinating. I mean, it's a constant sort of movement at Lace House, but I'm very proud to be a part of that family business and hopefully can continue it on, and my children and my sister's children will be able to carry on the tradition. Thank you, Phoebe. I have to say that every one of their kids' friends, of which my grandson is one, every one of them gets offered a job during summertime at their house. It really is nice. I want to know from Paula how much time we have left. It's not 5 to 8.
It is 5 to 8.
Well, how much time do we have? When's it over?
8:30. 8:30.
Okay, well, see, I want to leave room for you to ask questions.
We'll be finished.
And I think we'll do that now, okay? And you ask questions, they don't all have to answer the same question. You ask your question to whoever you want an answer from, okay? But before that, I have to say you did wonderfully. I'd hire you all. I think you're great women. Yeah. But before questions, I'm not following directions very well. Krista, are you here? Would you come up? Krista Chalamitos is running for the nonprofit, what do you call it?
Petaluma Healthcare District.
Oh, the Petaluma Healthcare. Oh, I'm so stupid.
They go,
Don't go too far.
Okay, I won't go far. So, hi, I'm Krista Chalamitas. I know some of you faces out here, and I'm running actually for the Petaluma Healthcare District Board. So the question for you guys, because I'm going to turn this around a little, is how many of you know that you live in a healthcare district? Hey, that's
that's a lot more than I thought. So actually, interestingly, most people don't even know they live in a healthcare district, and they don't know what it means. They might know they live there, but what does it mean, and why should you care? And so I'm going to make this really brief. I actually made myself notes because I'm a candidate, so I'm learning on the job. And just a little bit about myself. I'm the executive director of a nonprofit. It's called Senior Advocacy Services, and we are ombudsmen and Medicare counseling. So our ombudsman, we go to long-term care, and we advocate for seniors. And so I love my job. And I'd like to say my greatest accomplishment is not here yet. I want everyone in Petaluma to know what the heck a long-term care ombudsman is. And because most people just don't know what that is and why they should care about. So I made myself a note that said, you know, a healthcare district was created by the residents to address the community's healthcare needs. And why you should care about that is because we are in a unique position. There's only 79, I believe, in all of California, and you're making decisions yourself as a community by electing a board which has oversight for your hospital. So the healthcare district owns the hospital, they own the land, and in doing so, by electing a board, you get to have a voice in saying what this community needs for their healthcare. And so my personal opinion on this is really important. And I hope that we can help the community, all of the community, know more about what this really is and why they should be involved.
Thank you.
Krista Chelamides. So here's how you'll remember it. It is Greek, it is, and it's the name you won't remember. It's that girl with the funny name that nobody can say. So, and I'm available here if you guys have any questions on what, you know, a little more digging down deep.
She didn't, oops, here. Don't talk to that. She didn't get away with not answering questions. We were told that the healthcare district had an election. So, sorry. And we apologize to you very much. Okay, now, first question. Up.
I'd like to ask the school board candidates, and maybe starting with the current ones and then moving to the new ones, is what is your impression of restorative justice? And are you interested in implementing it in Petaluma, and could you elaborate, please?
So restorative justice is a very important program, and we actually do some restorative justice on our campuses with kind of low-level suspension items, you know, maybe, I'm not thinking of the right word, we call it a nice word for cheating. Academic dishonest, thank you very much. Yes. So there are, I know Petaluma High School last year, they did start a restorative justice program, and I think it is, and also there is, on some level, I mean, it's not an entire program, but it does happen on both of the comprehensive high school campuses and also the alternative education campuses where, you know, if you've said something to a teacher or another student, there is an opportunity for that student and teacher or student and student to come together to exchange.
Actually, I think I misspoke the question.
Oh.
I'm thinking about restorative justice curriculum.
Oh,
So
okay.
not just, you know, peer mentoring or anything like that. I'm talking about a curriculum. And I mean, I'm a former elementary school teacher from the East Coast. We had a fabulous program for elementary school called restorative, what is it? It's, I can't remember right now, but I took 2 5-week classes, 2 5-week day classes, and they're very, very good. It's starting with elementary school, with kindergarten, and it teaches children to care. Responsive classroom.
Oh, okay.
Responsive classroom, which is fabulous.
So I guess you want to know, is there any
Are you
discussion
interested
on
in
your school board
responsive classroom?
when you do that?
Are you aware of that program, responsive classroom, and are you thinking of bringing it into Petaluma?
I don't know that we call it that, but we have a program. All of our elementary schools have caring communities, safe school ambassadors, so we have many programs that currently exist. A lot of the elementary schools maybe pick a trait of the month, responsibility, compassion, and they, you know, the whole month is spent around that topic and learning and assemblies and people are writing and giving speeches. So a lot of that goes on currently, and again, at the secondary schools as well. I mean, both of those schools, you know, there's, it's called Link Crew at both of the high schools, where it's like a welcoming crew to all the incoming freshmen. You get linked with an upperclassman so that there's an older person who can acquaint you with the school and be a friend, or if you're in a difficult situation. So it does exist. Always looking for new ideas and programs, so certainly send us an email. I mean, if it sounds like an existing great program, we can look into it for sure.
Oh, sorry. No. So Phoebe really answered what we do have. A lot of schools do have different titles and different programs. I am not familiar specifically with the one that you mentioned. When my kids were in elementary school, one of the programs they have is Toolbox, where the counselors came in and involved the kids. Similar idea. What are your emotions? How do you deal with each other? What's respect? As they go through the grades, similarly to what Phoebe said, I know in my daughter's school right now, one of the things they do is it's exactly that. They have a class that picks and takes on the word of the month. They act out a skit for the entire assembly, the entire school. So we do have a lot of programs like that. They're called different things. I'm all for it, absolutely. But we have a curriculum director, really starts there, comes to us after it's an event by teachers and things, so definitely send it our way if that's something you think we could use. Do you want to hear from me? You want your school board?
Oh, I do.
You have your.
Because it's a big deal.
Luckily in Sonoma County, we have an awesome organization called Restorative Resources that does a lot of similar work. And I believe the Meta Center for Justice also has some curriculum that I'd be really interested in bringing to our schools, and really, I think, bringing more just restorative practices into our classroom, like you're saying, from kindergarten and TK, and making students feel like they're a part of the classroom and feel like a part of the decision making. Obviously, they're not going to decide like, oh, we're not going to study about World War II, but when kids feel like they're a part of the classroom and the environment and feel like they're the equal value as teachers, that can change things so much. And I think my best teachers are the ones that made me feel really valued and really like a part of a learning community. And I think that PCS is on that track, but from the teachers that I've talked to at CASA and at Petaluma High, things are being labeled as restorative justice that really aren't restorative justice. And it's putting a bad taste in everyone's mouth about what restorative justice really is. And when the union tries to discuss restorative justice with administrators, they get shut down pretty quick. So that is something I would like to change.
I'm just learning about restorative justice, frankly. I immediately like it. Because it's collaborative, because it's conflict resolution. I have heard that there was a huge spike in suspensions in the past year, and I don't know what that is all due to, but as a teacher of English with 11th and 12th graders, when students were suspended, it was terrible because they lost class time. And it's sometimes the students that were suspended were not doing great in my class anyway. And so it really, I would really like to use that more and have it be something that's definitely kindergarten through, where, and I know that there's an attempt to do it, but I have heard that it's only an attempt and that they're not really trained in serious, probably several steps of restorative justice and not just doing a checkbox. So I can only talk about my own experience and the damage that's done when students are suspended and out of classroom. And they're out of classroom for 3 to 5 days, which doesn't sound like a lot. It's a lot. So anyway, that would be Joanna.
So I currently work at St. Vincent High School, but the last 2 years I worked at Kenilworth, which is one of the best schools in the district, Kenilworth Junior High School, and there's no restorative justice there. I sat in on every discipline hearing, when I was a 7th grade counselor, the next year I was an 8th grade counselor. And it was 3 to 5 day suspensions. And it was always a 5-day, and then if they did 20 hours of community service, it went down to a 3-day. It's not really restorative justice. But I never saw it there. One time our assistant principal went into a classroom to take care of like some low level type of gossiping, but I never saw it there. So I wouldn't answer your question, no. And late crew is only a Petaluma High. It's not a CASA anymore.
Santa Rosa has been using it.
Next. May I just correct, because I just don't want to room full of people that have incorrect information. I'm happy to get back to you guys with statistics, but our suspensions are down. They're lower than ever. So I've heard that recently, and so definitely I don't want anyone to think, I just don't want you to have misinformation, and we can get you some statistics if anyone wants. My email's on the website, email me and I'll get it from you. But my understanding from our student services is the statistics we show, suspensions are down, just to make sure.
So maybe they were higher than 200 before. Because I would trust my source. That, and it was a big
not our
spike.
climate now, but I'm absolutely happy to show you year by year, because after the last forum, our assistant superintendent of student services sent us the last decade so we can have comparisons. I just don't have it with me, so I don't want to spill out some facts of 2004 was different from 6, from 7, from 8, from 9, but the suspensions are down. But we can share that information with you for sure.
Okay, we're going to, the subject is closed. We're going on to another subject. Yes?
Okay, this is for the mayoral candidate and for the city council candidate, both. What in your background, either academic or professional, do you feel best prepares you for the position that you seek?
So the question is, what is my academic background?
Or professional.
Or professional? Yeah. Well, I think I mentioned before that I practiced as an urban planner for 20 years. I had my own consulting business for most of that time. Once I got up and running with somebody else's firm and understand what to do, I went out on my own. And what that meant is that I worked for developers, primarily commercial developers and nonprofit housing developers. And I was the one that got hired on to know what we could do with the land, so what we could actually build, what the envelope was, and then worked with the community and worked with the council offices and staff at City Hall to come up with a project that we could actually get entitled and got approved with the community. So I think that's a great asset I bring to Petaluma, given the state of where we are in terms of development in this town and our need to sort of do development differently. Thank you for the question.
So I agree with Delinda. I think her background is really important for our city council, and hope people consider that. My background has absolutely nothing to do with city council, but I am an academic by nature and by training. And I studied international relations as my bachelor's degree at San Francisco State, and concentrated on the Middle East. So maybe I have a taste for intractable problems. And then when I went to UCLA, I studied economic history of the Middle East and worked on that, studied at the American University of Cairo, and finished my master's at UCLA. And then I went to the RAND Corporation where I worked in research. And I think what my background brings to the city council is my ability to look at a problem, analyze it, figure out what needs to be found out about the problem, and then try and find that out, and then make a decision based on what I learn. And that's pretty straightforward, but sometimes it's really hard to get all the information. So that's it. So it's not really a straight line.
So let's say that you're elected 2 years from now. What do you want to point to say is different, or this is success? I've been successful in this job. What's different?
You're asking each one of them?
Whoever wants to answer it. I'd love to hear from as many as want to answer.
Sure.
One of the things I've been working on lately, the last year, that is, I have 2 projects. that I really want to work on. One is to increase the funding for schools. I'm really concerned with the local control funding formula and how much money other districts are getting, particularly in Southern California, that we're not getting in Northern California. So I've been up to the state twice in the last 9 months. We're waiting now for a new governor, our representative told us, and I would like to continue that work, and I would like to be a part of getting the money redistributed a little bit better. I think we're not getting our fair share. The other thing I'm really hopeful for is Performing Arts Center here in Petaluma. It's part of our district that, like MSA down in Novato, students could be students of Petaluma School of Arts, or they could be from any of the TK through 12 and participate in classes maybe after school there. So those are two things I'd really like to accomplish.
Anybody else want to answer? Yes, do you want to answer that?
I would like to see 2 years without our teachers having to go on strike. And I would like to see a climate free of sexual violence and harassment, and a climate where students know that their Title IX reports will be taken seriously, because right now that is not the climate at Petaluma City Schools.
If I got what I wanted in 2 years, we would have a different majority that would work together to really address the housing situation in our town. And also, I would like to have a community discussion on the Crosstown Connector, because I don't think anybody in town thinks that the existing traffic situation is acceptable. But I really do not think that just promising a crosstown connector is the same as actually delivering a crosstown connector. And the real problem is we have been building with overriding considerations that we will take care of those traffic problems with the Rainier Crosstown Connector. But we haven't been collecting enough money to build it. And it can't even begin until the freeway is raised and widened and the undercrossing can go beneath it. But once that happens, we need at least $80 million to build that. We have not collected that money from developers, and therefore, but we have gotten $11 million in funding that Mayor Glass got for us that is supposedly in a lockbox. And we're counting on that. And we have some development funds that maybe bring that up to maybe 22 million. But we're in a deficit situation, and it gets paid for, if not development funds, it gets paid for by taxes, or we do without it. And that is just not acceptable to me. So I think we need a discussion on the council about how we're going to pay for this, and because it's going to have to come to a vote of the people of Petaluma. Do you want to be taxed? Because if they're promising you any other way of taxing it, I think we have to say, show me the money.
2 years. That answer.
I just want to follow up on that, because when I'm going door to door, people talk about Rainier. I say something about the Rainier connection, and they're like, "What's that?" It's the reason we have so much congestion in town, because we've been relying on a connector that does not exist, and I don't personally believe ever will exist. What I would like to see is a lot more communication with our community, with you, forums like this, where you ask questions, we find answers, we have experts in the room, we know what Rainier looks like, we know what it's going to cost, we know what we've spent, we know what properties we own, we know much more about it than we do now. That's what I would like to see happen in 2 years, that we know what the budget looks like, we know exactly where the money's coming from, where it's going, and that we're educated about what is going on at City Hall.
Oh, wait, one more. Two more.
Okay. So I'd like to see more counselors on campuses. I know I referenced the Link crew earlier. It's not because they don't care, it's because they just don't have time. The counselors in this district have anywhere from 350 to 450 students. They sit on every discipline meeting, IEPs, scheduling. So I'd just like to see more counselors on campus.
Well, I'll make this short. I would like, in 2 years, or actually in a very short period of time, not to ever hear, so where is Petaluma SRJC? Okay, but that's not. Probably funding. The governor has a new funding mechanism. You're all probably familiar with ADA. The junior college gets something called FTES, and that was our funding based on our enrollment. Now that's only a third of our funding. We're going to be evaluated on student success and how we serve underserved students. And that formula is now being developed, and it is difficult, and I hope that will bring some understanding to the college and the community on how that works. And we also have a structural deficit at the Santa Rosa Junior College that I hope will be resolved in 2 years. We have declining enrollment. We're an aging community. So we need to figure out who we are and what we are, and that should be done. You know how many of you went to the junior college? How many of you have a class? Yeah, usually all the hands go up. So you know what a jewel it is in our community. So in 2 years, I hope that some of these issues we're dealing with today will be resolved.
I actually do, because in 2 years, I want to see a lot more women up here running for city council.
Well, I can't top that. I would like to, first of all, get counseling services in 2 years. I would like to see a lot more social workers, clinical psychologists, so that our counseling services are expanded tremendously on all campuses. They're full-time. They're not just, they're not interns, they're actually licensed, and that they're at all school sites. I would also like to work towards a communication, collaborative process with the community itself. There was a great op-ed actually in the paper today in the New York Times. David Brooks. And he was talking about what I would call a collaborative governance. And it's where you have all of the different people in the community, all the different organizations, all, parents, administrators, students, everybody together thinking about how to make our students successful, how we all take on the challenges that are quite serious before our culture right now. So that's what I would like to see in 2 years, is working towards that.
I want to know if there's anybody up here who wants any more time. Okay, wait a minute, gentlemen.
This is sort of a follow-up. I consider all politicians, be they the school board, the city council, the state legislature, whatever, to be educators. And I would like to know how you would approach the issue of people coming out of our high schools and into our colleges who have no concept of critical thinking, or very little, no concept of ethics, no concept of what we used to call civics, who don't know the Constitution from constipation, and would really like to participate but don't see a path for themselves to do that. What will you, as elected officials, do about that? Anybody?
Well, I taught high school, and I taught English, and I taught ethics within that. And I think that we're trying to teach children from the time that they're in kindergarten all the way through 12th grade.
As a college professor, I can tell you you're failing.
Okay.
And that's the problem I would like to see.
In general? Like,
yeah,
completely, utterly
some of the
failing.
brightest and best students coming out of some of the best colleges don't have critical thinking skills. They have factoid skills.
So one of the things that happened a few years ago was that they changed the testing, and they went to a type of testing that was completely centered on teaching critical thinking skills. It's only in its 4th or 5th year. So we're just now, and it started in kindergarten and it goes through 12th grade, and it was a tremendous change because they were teaching them things that it wasn't just like check boxes. It wasn't A through F. It was teaching them how to look at a problem and then actually write about it or think about it in some way. So I think it's getting there. I think it's a cultural problem along with everything else.
So now, does anybody have something different to say? Okay, Maggie does. Educators.
Well, I'm a little more optimistic than you are, and I don't have a magic wand with me. And I think that the problem that you cite is multifaceted. And it is just not the schools, it's socioeconomic, it's poverty. I would say poverty is probably the essence of the problem, and equal, we talked about funding, different funding in the different schools, and then we can talk about how you teach and what you teach. I mean, all of those pieces. So I would love to have a dialogue about it, but there's no 2-minute answer for your questions. At least I don't, you know.
Okay, all right, now, just
since you're all women and you're all running for office, I would like, starting with Teresa, for you to tell me what you as a woman will bring to that office that is specifically better because you are a woman.
My hair. I do think it is really, really important to have a woman's perspective, but I just can't say that every woman brings an important perspective. I mean, I've just worked with too many who don't. But having said that, I've worked with more men than women, and the women are still have more perspective, a better perspective, often. But I've worked with some wonderful men. So I find that to be a really difficult question, because I really beat the bushes trying to find women to run for office. And I think it does change the quality of the discussion. Believe me, I can't imagine what men would have answered about their failures and their successes. The game they lost or something. So anyhow, so I think we need more women, we need more people of color, we need younger people, you know, we need every kind of person there is. We need more family people, we need more single people. Everything needs to be represented on every aspect. And you know, that's just, I just can't give you the, you know, what do I bring? I just bring what I have, and you know, that is part of being a woman.
Anybody else? Joanna.
I just think I kind of reaching back to what Sherry said about staying at home. So I was at home for 12 years with my kids, and now I'm working with kids. And so just bringing that perspective, not just as a woman, but as a mother and as a nurturer, as well as an educator. And then also, like Teresa said, being a woman of color in a very white-dominated town, and staff, not necessarily the student body is, because student body is about 40% children of color, and they really don't have a lot of tangible examples of other women of color in the school district right now.
I think being a young woman who went to these schools is an interesting perspective that I have. I know what it's like to be a young woman at these schools. I know what it's like to go to a public school and get sexually assaulted and try and file a Title IX report. It's not fun, people. It doesn't work. So that's one perspective that I think I bring that can really inform a lot of the work I do. But like Teresa said, I mean, even just talking Title IX and sexual violence, some of my best allies have been men, and some of my worst, the people I've come up against have been women. And then there are people of all genders that do all sorts of different things. And as a queer woman who loves people of all genders, I think I can bring that perspective as well.
I was on the phone this morning with my ED with 2 women. And he gets on the phone and he says, "So guys, how's it going?" And I'm trying to teach him. I'm trying to teach him that that's not okay with me. It's not guys. You don't get to do that anymore. And I was on the phone with a constituent. Somebody had called me because we'd gotten a flyer. And just in the conversation, I had this awareness that, again, his perspective was not mine, and it was very much a male perspective. And I was aware that that was that perspective. And so I guess what I would bring is just that awareness of what it means to be female,
or be queer, or be from somebody who's different, and that we just notice things differently. So I think that, thank you.
So I've been very fortunate in the school board. It's been a majority of women for maybe the last 12 years. And the men that have been on have been some of the most sincerely amazing men I've known. So I'm not sure in the school board currently if being a man or a woman makes a difference. We're a really big body of people together. And maybe it's because they have children and they've been hands-on dads and they've worked around women and they're great people. But I will say, the time I did notice a huge difference was when I was definitely a minority in the police department, with a lot of young men and men that had been police officers since women couldn't wear pants and had to wear skirts. And so that was definitely a time where I thought, as a woman, I brought a huge difference. Talking somebody into a pair of handcuffs safely and getting them taken to jail safely was always my only way, because being 140 pounds and 5'7", I was not going to take down too many men by using a foul mouth or trying to punch them out or those kinds of things. So I did absolutely notice in that regard that being a woman in that profession, I think I had something to teach the men around me on how to do things, since we're peacekeepers in that profession, a little more peaceful. But in politics so far, I've been very lucky that everyone I've worked with has been very kind and compassionate, and we share ideas very well. So I don't know.
Just briefly, I think it's important also just to be a reasonable person in whatever position, male, female. So I feel that I can bring that strength to the board and be able to get along with others, obviously from different backgrounds and different races and ethnic backgrounds. So I think that's a very important quality, and I think it goes to the gentleman's question there, that it's kind of lost on some of these students or young adults that we're raising. I think we kind of have to get back to some of the basics, and a lot of it starts at home, I believe, the values and the civics and the kind of what's important and just general respect. So I feel like as a woman, it's important, all of those qualities, and obviously we need to raise our young men with those qualities as well.
One more, and then we're through. Yes.
Hi, I'd like to ask the candidates for the school board what we're doing in our elementary and middle schools to either teach our boys and girls about consent, or what would you do to do that? Thank you.
So again, I work at a rape crisis center. It's a nonprofit rape crisis center. So it's mostly funded by the government. So city schools wouldn't have to pay for us as a nonprofit to come into the schools at all. And we are always looking for ways to get into these schools. And we hit roadblocks. Teachers don't have a lot of time, which is understandable, but administration pushes back sometimes. So I think leaning into the resources that already exist in the community that we don't have to find funding for is the best way we can move forward. I know I didn't learn about consent in high school at all. I didn't learn about it until college when I got sexually assaulted in a hot tub. So that's a huge problem and a huge passion for me. I'm not going to talk about it too much, but the curriculum is all out there. We can teach kids starting so young about consent. Even like, you don't have to hug someone if you don't want to. We can respect your bodily autonomy, and as parents and educators, we can enforce that bodily autonomy that they show. And you can talk about sexual harassment without talking about the nitty-gritty of sex, right? Like, oh, how'd that make you feel? Okay, that's bad. And teaching our kids that a boy punching a girl or chasing a girl or pulling her pigtails, that's not cute. That's not romance, that's not cute, and that's violence against women that we are perpetuating and teaching. So I could talk forever and ever about this, I won't, but the resources are out there. We don't have to pay more, we don't have to make our teachers learn more. It's there. Our crisis line is 545-7273 if this is triggering for you.
So Caitlin's right. One of the things that's very difficult is it's not so much that the district doesn't want to add any programs, it's that we have to have a certain amount of minutes of instructional time. So it's really about trying to find the time to not teach science or math while we're teaching a litany of other things that we really feel are important and want to teach. So it's all about it. So she's right, it's not necessarily that we don't want to do it, it's that we have instructional minutes that we have to meet with the state of California. With that said, I can talk about, one of the things that I like right now is that I've just come up as a parent to the schools, and what Phoebe and I talk about a lot is that we see the top, oh, we're going to do this, and then we're at the bottom. That didn't trickle all the way down like we thought it was going to. really important. So some of the similar programs we talked earlier when you went through restorative justice and talked more about respect and things in the classroom, many of those programs do incorporate those things about how to be respectful to others. And we are always open to adding that. I've been working with a friend that works in the same area as Caitlin, and we've been trying to really redo or add to, modernize, I guess I should say, our human interaction course, which starts with those kind of ideas and goes all the way through what we used to call sex ed and stuff like that. So definitely trying to reshape that program so it brings more of the more modern issues in the curriculum.
So I would like to see it actually talked about. We talked about sexual harassment one day for 45 minutes at Chandler every year. And we did have like the life skills lessons about respect and compassion. But I mean, I had girls in my office crying because boys were asking them for pictures, and even though they said no so many times, and they're like, well, I guess I just have to send it to him. And so they didn't respect their no, and then these girls didn't really know how to give a no, and then who to go to for help when they were being harassed in this way. So I would at least like to see the conversation had on campuses.
We're finished. Oh, you're finished. No, go ahead. No, I thought you were all through.
All right, bring it home. Yeah, bring it home. No, you're going to be. No. So I was just going to mention that the two things that were mentioned that I had also was thinking about was the human interaction curriculum, which was developed when I first moved here 31 years ago. And it's great because it does go from kindergarten, you know, all the way through, but it obviously needs more than tweaking. And so, and thinking about Verity and different organizations that we can tap into to really make that curriculum meaningful to all the kids and include boys, girls, everything that's going on in our culture. So I'm really thrilled that our district is working towards that, and it's good. And hopefully help. Oh, no.
Just got used to not talking into this blank thing. So, thank you for coming. And thank you, audience. You're wonderful. Care. After the Kavanaugh vote, however you think of it, one way or the other, but within 15 minutes, my 18-year-old grandson texted me and said a comment knowing I care a lot. And I sent back the text that said, honey, just get your friends to vote, and it doesn't matter how they vote, just so they care and they are aware. And that's what we have to teach our kids, boys and girls.